Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kyle here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about Yannica. Fully maxed here. I'm ready to go. I'm going to be doing a couple things. We got her in gear currently. This is going to be aimed for dungeons. And then later in the video, we're going to switch her gear around. More of a clan boss style build for her. When I say fully maxed, I mean fully maxed. We got all the books on a Yannica. I never thought I'd be saying that, but we got her actually maxed. She actually hits crazy hard. It's pretty cool to see her. I actually really like her in Fire Knight. I think Fire Knight is probably where she shines the most so far. Also, I think she is good in Clan Boss. I ran her a few times before. Haven't ran her in Clan Boss in a minute, so it's gonna be nice to go back and run some games with her in Clan Boss. I do like the Leech mechanic ever since the changes. It's been nice. It's really good timing for me to pull her. I pulled her right after the buff went live, and so finally got her actually leveled up and ready to go. So we can actually do this video. Area 1, which is attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a Leech debuff for 2 turns. Attacks all enemies 2 times instead if this champion is under a Veil buff. Surely I've seen in videos that maybe you don't apply Leech. I just want to clarify, you do apply Leech AoE wise, you're under a Veil buff, which is awesome. She might not be the best champion that has Leech, but she is the best applier of Leech. 2, this is her main move, in my opinion. This would also makes her very good, which is attacks one enemy. It hits super hard. It doesn't say that, but super hard. Places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 3 turns. If this attack is critical, grants an extra turn. So it's essentially on after booked, it's on a 3 turn down to a 2 turn because you're guaranteed to get the extra turn. Then you can go into her A3 here, which is attacks all enemies, will ignore shield buffs, removes shield buffs from targets if this champion is under a veil buff or a perfect veil buff, then deals extra damage equal to 50% of the value of the removed shield buffs. We're mainly for dungeons, so this is what we're going to be doing first. This combination here of she'll just one-shot an enemy here, well over 100k crits, and then she also crits AoE-wise for about 80k. This is from what I've seen, the 70, 80k. So it's actually pretty insane. So on the Fire Knight 2 that I like is that since she's doing this, which is attacks one enemy, then she's granting herself an extra turn, attack twice with her A1, which is really nice for the Fire Knight shield. So not only is she doing a ton of damage in the early part on the waves, she's also a very good character for the actual Fire Knight. Obviously not going to hit as hard as like a Rogart or a Cold Heart, but it does hit very hard for a normal move. She's applying multiple hits so she can chew through that 10-hit shield as well. So it does well in both phases, which I really like for Fire Knight. Here, let me move myself. Oh, okay, here now. So this is what I got currently. I think there is an argument to be made to go defense tree. Standard attack for War Master, and then I got Sniper, apply Leech more, and then also got Master Hexer to make it last longer. And then, Lord of Steel and Evil Eye, all good stuff that are pretty standard. In another way, I'd probably go down this way where you hit, Resurgent, and then Retribution, and Deterrence is also another option that I was considering doing, but I've been sticking with this for now. Especially if I was just purely going to make her for dungeons, I would definitely do this because I'm really not going for the debuff stuff. But if I was going to run her, clan boss, so this is definitely I think this is the better option, but you could still argue this is a good option too for clan boss. Do Fire Knight. And the reason why I've been talking about Dragon is because she's off Affinity for Dragon, really not a fan of her there. She is pretty good in Ice Golem too. And then Spider, I think there's some cool things you could do in Spider, but I haven't tested it, which is you can do the AoE Leech, and then maybe my idea is you have like an off affinity tank that has AoE, and then they'll get a ton of healing, so they'll just never die, which I think is actually entirely reasonable and would be a really cool way if you pulled Yannica to be able to beat Spider 20 maybe for the first time. I definitely want the attack up. I want the whole thing. I want the attack up. I want the defense down. I want the weaken. I want to see the maximum amount of damage I can get with this character on her A2, because the A2 is where big damage comes from that move. So here, let's do it. Let's go. This is the move here. Baffling Speed, attacks one enemy, places the perfect veil buff on the champion for 3 turns, and if the attack is critical, grants an extra turn. And so this is where it's at. Let's one-shot this guy. Boom. So 137k crit. I think that's actually pretty sick, especially for a character that also gets to go again and does a move like this where you get 90k crits for everyone else. So I think that's actually pretty sick. Also, my gear, it's broken set. So maybe if I had more offense with Cruel, ignoring defense, maybe Savage, can do a lot more damage. This is just kind of off gear that is, just high stats, but doesn't have good set bonus synergy. So I think 137k, 140k is a great crit. Okay, let's auto this so you can kind of get an idea of how useful she is in the later parts of Fire Knight. So we already know that she's going to be really good here for taking down the waves, which is something that's a little unusual because spirit characters are a little rare, and also characters that are good for Fire Knight are a little rare. So it's kind of cool that not only is she going to be good here, but then later you'll see in the Fire Knight that good at knocking down the shield. And if the shield's already down, she still does a ton of damage because her A2 will hit incredibly hard. I would say for this dungeon, this is where she really shines and where you're going to find the best use for kit overall is here. And next is probably going to be Clan Boss. I also really like Allure for the turn meter reduction. So see 100k, 100k, and then another 25, 2 hits of 25k. So yes, not as much as Cold Heart hitting for 600k, but for a character as consistent as her and that got you through to that point and then to still be doing that much damage is fantastic. And then here, let me see if I'm covering this. I hope I'm not covering this. Here. Yeah. See, like, look at this. So you see, you got the Cold Heart, the 1 million, and then you got all these people. And then I noticed that my camera froze. And then I was like, how long did this go for? Was this like frozen the whole time? So fortunately it was right at the end there. But what I was trying to say is she did 1.8 million damage, you know, compared to Cold Heart, compared to all these other characters that are known to be good in Fire Knight, did very good damage there. I think Yannica is legitimately one of the best characters in the game when it comes to, she's shown this in a couple of videos before, but there's another glitch for Ice Golem that I really like to use, especially with Royal Guard, if I can get it to proc. I think she's good for this for sure. I really like as a damage dealer, she covers for herself, especially if you were kind of like just starting to do these dungeons. I really like this ability here for your damage dealer because as I was saying in other videos about when to progress and stuff, a lot of these characters like Royal Guard or like these damage dealing characters are too squishy for your account. Whereas with her, you can just plug her in for your dungeon runs and then she's going to cover herself. She's going to invis herself and give her a damage decrease buff with the perfect veil. So it's great for this kind of stuff. Where, for example, Royal Guard, like let's say I didn't have an Arbiter here where I couldn't res. Then so he's just done. Whereas she is never going to get targeted. Other people on your team, maybe people with significantly more survivability, like if you had Tyrell or you know just some kind of beefy tank character, is probably going to get targeted over her, which is really cool to have when you're at a point where survivability really matters. And then so what the glitch I was talking about earlier is this part here where see how I'm targeting him? I'm like manually targeting. So as I'm doing this, what happens is if Royal Guard does his AoE on a character like this when it's targeting, it's not going to proc his actual big AoE move from ticking down on his health markers. When there's another character here, he does the AoE while it's targeted. He'll just do the move and not have to worry about getting counterattacked. So it's really nice for speedruns and stuff like that. It's kind of cheesy, but I'm going to take advantage for it because I absolutely hate this engine and it's just really obnoxious. So hopefully we'll get to highlight it on this. I don't think it's going to happen just because he just did the move right as he reset, but it's pretty cool. Yannica actually popping off here, doing very similar damage to this dungeon than she did in Fire Knight. Character like this, providing Leech is cool. She's actually proccing it a significant amount for how little accuracy she has. Like I only have 80 accuracy on her. I did not prioritize it at all. And it's really clutch. It comes up a ton for a character that I'm not prioritizing it on it. I've been seeing it a lot. Many opportunities to proc. Here again, she completely, surprisingly carried. Like that's a ton of damage right there. Like she does work because usually Royal Guard is going to be AoEing, you know, once every 4 turns. Whereas she's constantly putting out a ton of DPS. Very consistent DPS, can handle, she never falls off. She does really well in the AoE situations and she does really well in the single target situations too. So fantastic character for Ice Golem as well. Come back, I'm going to re-gear her for Clan Boss and then run it right when the reset happens. Specifically, there's a couple of key numbers I wanted to hit for this build. Mainly I was going for enough accuracy. So we got pushed up the accuracy in the 250 range. Then we got 100% crit rate. You know, I went a little over there. Ideally, you know, it'd be exactly 100, but I just, based on the gear I had, that's kind of what I had to deal with here. speed needed to be in the 170s for my Ultra Nightmare comp, since we're not doing the 190 speed. I'm doing the slower version. So I wanted her to go in the middle there. I didn't want her to go last, but I didn't want her to go first either. So that's why I got her at 173. Then then after those two things, as much defense as possible. So ideally, the thing with her is that you can just go ham on the stats as much as possible, as much crit damage as possible, as much attack as possible, because she has such a good modifier there. Issue is, you can only have so many stats, so trying to balance the accuracy and defense and attack with the crit damage was tough, but this is the best I can do. Also, the cool thing about Leech is that you're naturally just being stronger because you're not pigeonholed to like lifesteal gear. So that's the whole point of this, and that's what I was going for with this build. Normally, how I run my comp is for this test, what I'm doing is I'm replacing her with a cold brawler. So normally I do about 25 to 26 million on Ultra Nightmare with this comp. Then I'm slotting her in the place of a cold brawler. I didn't want to change everything because then I feel like it'd be hard to get an idea of exactly how much she's contributing. I just want to see what she does, and then keeping the team around her the same that I'm used to, with all of them still in lifesteal gear and stuff like that. I just, after trying her out, I think a couple things to note are that she definitely works well with characters that kind of heal on the side in certain ways. For example, Valkyrie would be a key example. I know she's a legendary, very hard to pull, but she's great because she's giving the shield. So if you don't heal all the way with your Leech buff, for example, you get an extra turn there with being able to hide behind the shield. So it makes that pairing's very good for Leech. Also, other characters that are strong would be people that have side healing as well built into their kits. So, for example, Jareg sounds good. Steel Skull sounds good. Bad L, for example, would be another good character that would pair well with a Leech style build, where they still do damage or they're still playing another use for the team. They just so happen in their kit to have healing built in with them. Another thing I do want to say as well is just my overall thoughts when I saw her, especially after the dungeons. I was kind of hoping she was going to do more damage. Not that that's really why she's here. I think it's kind of a cool perk that she does so much damage, but mainly what she's doing is providing your team with essentially an attack, a damage boost all for every character, because now they're not stuck in the lifesteal set. So that's what you're mainly bringing her for. And then another thing I wanted to say is, when she's fully booked, she has a 3-turn. She has her A2 is providing Perfect Veil for 3 turns, but then she goes again. So it's essentially a 2-turn cooldown. So then what happens is, if you don't manual it, what's going to happen is the Perfect Veil buff is great for taking the hardest hitting parts of the encounter, which is the 2 AoEs. So if you don't manual it, what could happen is if you have a speed tune comp, she's going to use it out of turn. She's going to use it on turn 3 and then constantly cycle it. Whereas what I ended up doing for this run is I manualed it. So I made sure to have the Perfect Veil buff on the A1 and the A2 of the clan boss. So just keep that in mind if you actually do book her. I know it's very rare to have her booked. That's one of the situations if you're doing a speed comp and you want to auto it. I think it's kind of nice that you don't need to book it to get that perfect synchronization for essentially her most important move in her kit. That's going to allow you to get away with stuff like, for example, you saw in my defense, it's only 3,000. She's getting that extra damage reduction, which makes her actually pretty tanky. So another way to squeeze a little bit more damage out of her. Just seeing it, as you can see at the end here, got 21 million. Which is, I wasn't expecting her to do as much damage as a cold brawler. I still think for a character that in her role, which is more so a support type, I think those numbers are respectable, especially with the gear I had. It's not like my gear was super exceptional and she only did this much damage. I would say this is like a mid-range kind of gear set for her. Could definitely be significantly better, but it also could be significantly worse depending on where you're at in your account. So I think this is a pretty realistic take on how much damage she can do. But just remember, the main benefits are going to be providing your whole team with extra attack, and that's hard to quantify. It's going to take you having a lifesteal set on everyone and then switching them over to this, and then that's how you'll really know the difference. I think if you're already 3-keying Ultra Nightmare, it's totally not worth it. If you're like 4-keying it and don't have counterattack or something, and you're really trying to find something to bump those numbers up, then maybe consider it. But that's just kind of my thoughts on it. So in conclusion on the character as a whole, I think she's good in Clan Boss. I think she's great in a few dungeons. Surprisingly good character when you take into account her actual kit buffs, the indirect buffs from her from her having Leech and Perfect Veil, both of those abilities getting buffed. Just the mechanics themselves getting buffed makes her actually a pretty good legendary. Definitely not high end, definitely not low end anymore. Just right in the middle as a solid legendary. So, all right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for me in this video. If you have any more questions, be sure to leave them down below, and you guys have a good one.